Sangam literature and later Tamil works. The earliest literature of South India is represented by a group of texts in Old Tamil, often collectively referred to as Sangam literature, a tradition recorded in post 7th century text speaks of three Sangam or literary gatherings in ancient time. The first is supposed to have been held in Madurai for 4,440 years. The second at Kapatapuram for 3,700 years. And the third in Madurai for 1,850 years. Although the details of this legend obviously cannot be considered historical, the similarity of language and style within the Sangam crafts suggests the possibility that they were the product of some sort of literary gathering. The case for the historicity of at least the third Sangam is that some of the kings and poets associated with it are historical figures. On the other hand, there is a possibility that the legend of the Sangam may have been based on a very different event, the establishment of the Jaina Sangha in Madurai in about the 5th century. In view of the controversy surrounding the tradition of the three Sangams, some scholars prefer to use the term early classical Tamil literature rather than Sangam literature. The Sangam crafts includes 6 of the 8 anthologies of poems included in the Etutokai and 9 of the 10 pattus of the Pattu, the 10 song. The style and certain historical reference in the poem suggests that they were composed between the 3rd century BCE and the 3rd century CE. They were compiled into anthologies in about the mid-8th century. A few centuries later, these anthologies were collected into the super anthologies called the Ettutokai and the Pattu. The earliest parts of the first two books of the Tolkapium can also be included in Sangam literature. The Tolkapium is essentially a work on grammar, but it also includes a discussion of phonology, semantics, syntax, and literary conventions. There are two kinds of Sangam poem, Akam and Puram. Akam poem had love as their theme, while Puram poems were mostly about war. A.K. Ramanujan, 1999, described Puram poetry as public poetry, which dealt with all kinds of themes other than love, such as God and evil, community and kingdom. The poems were modeled on the bardic song of older times and were orally transmitted for an indefinite period before they were written down. The anthologies include a total of 2,381 poems ascribed to 473 poets, 30 of whom were women. The poets came from cities and villages and had varied social and professional backgrounds. They included teachers, merchants, carpenters, astrologers, goldsmiths, blacksmiths, soldiers, ministers, and kings. Due to their varied themes and authorship, Sangam poems offer a good idea of everyday life in the time when they were composed. A number of Tamil didactic works were written in the post 5th century period. The most famous of these is Tiruvalluvar's Tirukkural, a work on ethics, polity, and love, 5th-6th centuries. Of the several Tamil epic, two of the best known are the Silpadikaram and Monimekalai. The former is a little earliest than the latter, but both were composed in about the 5th-6th century CE. Early medieval Tamil literature includes the inspired and intense devotional poetry of the Vaishnav Sant, Alvars, and Shaiva Sant, Nainar or Nayanmars, and their hagiographers. Vaishnav poetry took off with the composition of Pilvar, Pattulavar, and Poikalvar. In the 10th century, Nathmuni collected the Alvar hymns into the canon known as the Nalariya Divya Prabandham. The Alavapuram is a scared biography of the Vaishnav saints. Shaiva devotional literature began with the composition of Tirumular and Karikal Ammayar. The hymns of the Nayanmar saints were compiled in the 10th century by Nambi Andar Nambi, and this complication formed the core of the Shaiva canon. The Tirumarai. Nambi also wrote a work called the Tritundar Tiruvan about the saint. In the 12th century, the account of the Shaiva Sant were collected in a text called the Periya Paramam. All these texts provide valuable insight into the religious and social history of early medieval South India. New genres of Tamil poetry emerged in early medieval times, many in praise of kings and gods. The Kamalapakam were poetic composition in which the last line, word, foot, or syllable of the preceding poem formed the beginning of the succeeding one. Kovai were poems in which the verses are arranged in a thematic sequence. Composition in this genre included the Pattikovai, a 6th-7th century works written in honor of the Pandu king, Netumaran, Moni Kavvacharas, Tirukovvar, 9th century, in praise of the gods Shiva, and Poyambalam Pullovars, Tanchu Varan Kovai, 13th century, about Tancha Vamanan, a minister and general of a Pandava king. Ula literature comprised song in praise of God, sung when the image of the deity was taken out in procession. Tutu poetry consisted of poem in which a message is delivered to a god, lover, or someone else. The moral aphorisms and saying of Abhayar, 9th century, the second of three poets by the name, are still popular among Tamil-speaking people today. Of the many Tamil rendering of the Rama legend, the most famous is Kamba's Irabhatram. Tamil version of the Mahabharata story were also written, of which some fragments survive. Several Tamil lexicons and grammatical work belong to the early medieval period.